Hello, Chris Whiting from Hashtag Ellipsis. This is part 3 of hopefully 3. We'll see how we get on. Going through the business, going through the music business plan for artists. So we've covered the first 6 parts already in parts 1 and 2. Part 2 is cut off rather abruptly because my iPad, which I'm recording on, ran out of space. Hence why I'm now wearing different clothes. It's a different day. So I'm going to be covering from part 7 now and see how far we can get into this. Hopefully just try and blast through this all without making another video. We'll see. So, the market. So this point, I think I'm going to end up having to do a database or a template for you on this to kind of calculate these. First thing you want to do is work out how much you need to survive. The most important thing is that you can cover those costs that you need to cover, especially if you've got dependents. If you've got kids, you've got to look out for them. So, covering your rent or mortgage, utility bills, what is it every month that you've got to pay out for, which is just unavoidable? That's the first and foremost thing. Now, where can you draw money in? And as kind of mentioned earlier, this gets quite complicated. Pardon me, I've just eaten. This gets quite complicated as to what revenue you'll be drawing in. It depends upon what your business is. Hopefully you've got some idea. If you don't, you're going to have to do some market research on that. Or alternatively, drop me an email of what it is you're planning on doing and I'll try and suggest things for you and point you in the right direction. I'm going to quickly whiz past that because it's too big. But hopefully, if nothing else, this plan will just get you thinking about those factors. What are you putting out? How much are you spending each month, and how much are you going to bring in? Business operations sounds fancy, but it's just basically how's this going to work? The day-to-day things such as do you travel? If you're travelling to an office or a studio, that's part of your costings. But more importantly, do you travel? As in, if you're a touring musician, how are you going to cover the tour? Are you travelling by public transport? Have you got your own van? Are you using a car? Are you going to hire a car? I know artists who pretty much know all of this, whether they've got their own vehicle that they drive around in, small car with enough space for the band and the gear, people who hire cars. I know one band who travelled down from Newcastle, up here in the north of the UK, down to London on what we have as a megabus, where you get like a £1 ticket. The band of all their gear on this megabus, which takes like 8 hours to get down to London. But, they didn't have the finances to buy or hire a car or a van, and that's what they did. And they're doing all right now. In fact, I might interview one of them and bring them in at some point. So these things can then kind of become quite compound. Are you paying for roadies or kind of a sound engineer? How are you paying for them? And what are they the costs that can come out in the above section, finances. But who are your team? What people do you need? What processes are happening here at each stage? And who's involved, what resources are required. This could be quite big. If you're talking about organising an album release, talking about the recording, the promotion, the touring, there's a lot of people and a lot of subcategories of operations that you need to kind of address in there. But by going through it in this, you'll be well planned. And it might highlight to you things you think, I've kind of overlooked. While I'm away touring, while I'm recording, I can't really spend a lot of time looking after my social media. Can I get someone else in to look after that? It might just be sharing those responsibilities. If you're in a band, creating a rota of who's responsible when for the social media activity or on what platforms. This financial overview, you may choose to skip over this if you're working on a project like an album, because it will tend to be very much sort of top heavy. And very much derived around the nature and the timing of that project. If you're a studio or you're working workshops for schools, this is going to be quite useful for you to work out. There's going to be low periods. You know, I can't say for sure because I've never run a studio, but I'd imagine speaking to a studio, you're going to get the same low period as everyone else in the sort of, well, maybe not. But yeah, the summer months might be a low period when bands and artists are playing festivals and on tour. And it might be that the post-Christmas period is a quiet period because people aren't releasing music and because everyone's skint from Christmas. On the other hand, people might be recording new material for the spring. I don't know. Some research for you to do there if that's your thing. But basically just to work out where your highs and lows are going to be. And this might help you plan out, okay, that's going to be a busy period for us, right? Let's be ready to take on, you know, all that work. Here's going to be a quiet month or two. Right, what can we do to subsidise this month? What things can we offer out so the studio might offer more kind of some price incentives? You might offer other alternatives, you know, like the children's party and stag do's again. Or as an artist, yeah, when you've got a low income period, I suppose not so much a low income period, but a low work period. When you're not on tour, you know, you should be writing new material, or you should be promoting that material that's already out there, and you know, organising campaigns behind that, which might not be playing live. It might be organising other things. It might be pushing your work for sync. All these kind of things. Try and kind of, obviously this is going to be very customisable to you. Financial overview, I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It's a bit of numbers, you know, to make sure that you're covering your costs. And yeah, we'll look at a cash flow forecast in another video definitely, because I think that's a big thing. So startup costs. I think I mentioned this earlier, but it was yesterday. I think I did the video and I have no memory. So first of all, what equipment or what costs are you going to have to put out? And try and keep this lean. You don't need a Neve desk in your studio, so don't worry about that. But you don't even need a desk, let's be honest. You can do it in the box. You know, if the results are good enough, do it in the box. If you've got a good laptop and a good set of ears, you can make great music. So start with that. You can get your desk when you start earning enough money to pay for that desk, and it pays for itself. But there are things that you probably are going to need. Certain bits of equipment, certain resources, studio time, certain people as resources. You might need a consultant for your branding. You might need to hire a roadie, yada yada. Put those in. And also account for things that you've already paid for. They're already paid for, they're already yours, and you can be a little dismissive about thinking, well, I've already got a laptop, you know, I've already got the software. Note it down. Then, for no other reason, right? I mean, if you're setting up and trying to go for a loan, it looks great that you've already invested. But for you and your mindset going into this, if you list all the equipment you have and how much that's cost you, you might be surprised. I mean, I haven't done it for a while actually, but it's thousands of pounds of equipment, and you want to keep track of that. You want to keep track of your spending. Make sure you're not overspending, because if you're running anything like studios and you get a bit gear obsessed, you can overspend. Software can mount up on your computer without you realising you've spent hundreds of pounds. Keep a track of that, and keep a track of this, because you should be getting that equipment insured. You can't afford to have that broken, destroyed, stolen. Insure it. It's too valuable to you if you're going to start turning this into an income. So, what funding do you require? So, there are various schemes that can help you get a bit of cash behind you. There's funding for artists through in the UK for the PRS Foundation. There will be similar funding in your country, and government incentives. I know this. I don't know if we'll have to check. The current government, or the government here in the UK, did for a while offer a kind of a supported loan system from family, where for every pound they invest in you, a percentage of it was protected by the government. So you were kind of given that to blanket that. If you know, if the bank of mum and dad lent you 10 grand, I wish my parents had 10 grand to lend. Then, like, you know, it could be about, I think it's like 8 grand of it would be protected, and they could get that back from the government if you couldn't pay that back. That, you know, let's not even have that as an option. You're going to pay it back. You're going to make a living from this, and you're going to earn more than that. But it helps mum and dad feel safe, and you know they've already invested a lot in us, haven't they, parents? Let's look after them. So you can do some research into what other forms of income that you can get from this, and I'll probably do another video on this or a blog talking about different startup support kind of monies and funding you can get. So, critical risks. What could happen if it all goes wrong? Now, what's the worst case scenario? Illness. Now, none of us are immune to being ill. You know, what happens if you become ill and cannot complete this? If someone in your team, which you've identified earlier, becomes ill or unavailable, such as your mix engineer, as I've identified here, what can you do to protect yourself from that? Do you have contingencies? Now, if you become ill, that's a tough one, because you are the